Good morning, traders. Welcome to today's morning market call. My name is Ian Joseph, market analyst, HFM East Africa. Today is a blessed day in the spirit of 15 years celebrating, providing new traders with the right platform, with the right products. We are having a few promotions that you will want to check out. When you go over to your HF website, under the promotions tab, we do have the first 5 round number 2 currently ongoing, whereby if you do click on it, starting off with the pure gold giveaway, whereby it's going to end tomorrow, whereby we are going to have unlimited winners walking home with 10 grams of pure tangible gold each. Now, once again, we are in round number 2 on the first 5, whereby there's a 325,000 Kenyan shilling prize pool, whereby it's not only a marathon, it is a sprint. Number 1, how do you join on this? You go over to your HF under the promotions tab, join the first 5 round 2, trade 150 lot size in Forex, gold or silver using any account type, be the first of 5 traders to compete and complete the trading requirement by 22nd of October this coming month. Once again, 325,000 Kenyan shillings prize pool, whereby we are going to give home 65,000 Kenyan shillings each to you as the traders. We also have the Battle of the Elite currently ongoing, whereby you have an opportunity to become Kenya's Don Obese, claim the crown, win 650,000 Kenyan shillings. Number 1 is going to walk home with $5,000. Number 2 is going to walk home with $2,000. Number 3 is going to walk home with $1,000. We are going to have 10 lucky winners in the lucky draw, walking home with the $200 each. Once again, how do you join? You go over to your HF under the promotion segment, Battle of the Elite, join the round 2 promotion, open a Battle of the Elite trading account and deposit at least $100. Now, we have also started we are offering a very interesting account called the Shield 500 account. Now, this account, if you do deposit anywhere between $100 and $500, whatever losses you incur within the first 25 days, we are going to refund you up to $500, meaning you're going to be refunded the exact amount that you have lost within the first 25 trading days. Now, going over to the morning market call, we usually start our day looking at the economic calendar. This is whereby we do generate our ideas from. Starting off with New Zealand dollar, whereby they released their business confidence number for quarter 3, whereby the previous number was 22% and the data actually came out at 18%, slightly lower than the previous number. And you will want to look at how the New Zealand dollar is favoring on after the news release that has just come out during Asian session today. Now, the US government is still ongoing on its 7th day, whereby there's a lot of things happening at the moment, and we'll want to look at. Now, at the moment, we don't have high impact news releases in relation to New York session, apart from London session, whereby we do anticipate President Lagarde releasing her speech. Once again, she will be speaking the entire of this week. In the next 9 hours, 5 minutes to go, we do anticipate her speech once again. She did speak yesterday. She will speak today. She will speak tomorrow. And we want to look at what this means, especially looking at where France are currently at the moment. Now, less than a month ago, we had the previous prime minister resigning. Then President Macron appointed Sébastien. But yesterday, just a few hours after appointing his new cabinet, he did resign. Very interesting. Now, when you look at France, France is a very important country when it comes to the euro, because they do account for more than 20% GDP of the Eurozone. Whatever is going to happen to France, 20% of the euro is likely to be affected. Now, French Prime Minister, once again, Sébastien Lecornu, resigned after less than a month in office, less than 24 hours after naming a new government that prompted a key coalition ally to withdraw support. The move did deepen the country's political crisis and left President Emmanuel Macron with very few options. The presidency said that Macron, who has been hitting record lows in opinion polls, accepted the resignation. Lecornu had replaced his predecessor, François Bayrou, on September 9th to become France's 4th prime minister in barely a year during a prolonged period of political instability. Now, Lecornu is the shortest serving prime minister in the history of the Fifth Republic, which did start in 1958. Hello, Victoria. French politics have been in disarray since Macron called an early legislative election last year that produced a deeply fragmented National Assembly. Far-right and left-wing lawmakers hold more than 320 seats in the lower house, while the centrists and allied conservatives hold 210, with no party having an overall majority. There's a lot of uncertainty currently happening in France, and we will want to listen to President Lagarde's speech later on in the day. What does she have to say about this? Because once again, when you look at France, the biggest buyers of France bonds, France issued bonds are the euro, the European Central Bank, essentially. So whatever is happening currently at the moment, and she did mention there's a high likelihood that we might see uncertainty as a result of what is happening to France. Once again, they do account for more than 20% of the GDP. Now, despite more than 3 weeks of efforts to ensure enough support to avoid a no confidence vote, Lecornu was forced out hours just after forming his cabinet on Sunday, having lost the support of conservatives who hold more than 50 seats and who objected to his choice for defense minister. Now, Lecornu's government will manage day-to-day affairs until a new prime minister and cabinet are appointed. It's now up to Macron to either name a new head of government or to dissolve the National Assembly once again. Macron's office announced Monday evening that he has asked Lecornu to hold more final negotiations over the next 2 days in the interest of national stability, suggesting a potential second chance for Lecornu to stay and attempt to form a new government. What a beautiful, interesting start to the week. This is going to provide us with a lot of opportunities to trade, and we're going to look at how you can capitalize on this information. Now, moving over to United States of America, whereby the government enters its 7th day shutdown as Senate again fails to pass the funding bills. Now, the Senate on Monday again rejected Democratic and Republican proposals to fund the government, and then the shutdown now in its 6th day. Now, this was yesterday, but today is the 7th day currently happening. We have Just Boy. What is happening to JPY pairs? Why is the gap not being filled? We shall talk about that. Very, very important note that you have put out there. Now, the Democrats' proposal failed by a 44 to 55 vote, and the Republican bill did fail to vote. Both of them needed at least 60 votes to pass. Now, earlier Monday, President Mr. Donald J. Trump did note that another faith could trigger layoffs in the federal workforce, but he said that there were discussions going on with the Democrats to address their demands that Obamacare subsidies to be continued by the end of the year. Now, this is one of the key reasons why they are fighting at the moment. It is because of the Obamacare, whereby the Democrats want, in any meeting that Republicans and Democrats are going to have, the Democrats want healthcare to be in there. And in this healthcare, we are specifically talking of Obamacare. That's where most of the arguments currently between these two places, these two houses, these two major people in the United States, whereby the Republicans feel like we need to do away with this, but the Democrats feel like, no, Obamacare needs to still be there. Now, multiple air traffic control towers are short-staffed. Burbank Tower is currently closed. As the government shutdown continues, air traffic controllers are beginning to call out in greater numbers, and the situation is changing quickly in certain areas of the country. On Monday afternoon, Burbank Airport near Los Angeles announced that it will have no air traffic controllers and it will go Arctic zero, meaning normal flight operations would be suspended. This is scheduled to last until 10 p.m. Monday night, according to Federal Aviation Administration documents. Trump is still going on with the tariffs, whereby Trump has slapped 25% tariffs on medium and heavy duty truck imports. Now, in a post on social media, on Monday, President Donald Trump said that all medium and heavy-duty trucks imports to the United States will be tariffed at 25% starting November the 1st, whereby he did comment on a post. This comes after Trump said in September that he'd enact that tariff on all heavy big trucks made abroad. Very interesting thing to note, whereby, once again, Trump did mention he'll be happy to negotiate with Democrats if they'll open the government. Now, after the Senate did fail to pass a short-term government funding bill, that he'd be happy to negotiate with Democrats on any of their demands if they support Republican efforts to reopen the government. Now, he did say, unquote, "I am happy to work with Democrats on their failed," keyword here, failed healthcare policies or anything else, but first they must allow our government to reopen. Now, Trump did mention on his social media report. Switching gears to Russia, whereby the ongoing war is still sorry about this. Just a moment. Okay. Now, Russia did target Ukraine's natural gas facilities in the biggest attack of the war, whereby Russia did launch its biggest attack on the war overnight against natural gas facilities run by Ukrainians' state-owned Naftogaz group. Now, Russia fired a total of 381 drones and 35 missiles at Ukraine. Now, they are attempting to cripple the energy sector in Ukraine. We did see sometime mid last month, whereby Ukraine did fire a lot of missiles, over 400 missiles, targeting the third largest refinery of oil in Russia. Now, Russia have returned fire back again, whereby they are hitting now the energy sector in Ukraine. Now, this is deliberate terror against civilian facilities that provide gas extraction and processing for the normal life of people, said Sahi Koretsky, chief executive of Ukraine's state-owned gas company, Naftogaz. It has no military purpose. This is yet another act of Russian malice aimed solely at disrupting the heating season and depriving Ukrainians of warmth in winter. Now, we have talked about this severally in the previous morning market calls, whereby oil usually operates on supply and demand. Currently, at the moment, we are about to enter into winter starting next month, whereby it does get a bit cold in these countries. Now, when it does get cold, they usually depend on energy to warm up their houses. Usually, we see an uptick in demand during winter session in these countries. Now, Russia is attacking the energy sector, anticipating that if winter does come, it's going to affect their efforts in the ongoing war. Now, Russia did aim 35 missiles, many of them ballistic, and 60 drones at Naftogaz extraction and processing facilities in northeastern Kharkiv and central Poltava regions, some of which sustained critical damage. Now, Russia's Ministry of Defense says its forces launched a mass strike using drones and guided weapons against Ukraine's military industrial complex and the gas and energy infrastructure that supports it. All designated targets were hit. Interesting. Now, during the earnings seasons, we do anticipate earnings from BT Group, whereby it shall come out sometime next month. That is going to be for the news releases. I want to switch gears, look at the charts. There was a very interesting question from Jess Layboy, whereby he has asked, why are we not seeing JPY pairs? Let me share my MetaTrader. Fill in that gap. Okay, so I want to look at Nikkei 225 first. Now, Japan has just appointed a new female prime minister. She will be sworn on the 15th of this month, whereby she'll officially come into power. Now, if you look at her background, she has studied a lot of economics. And sometime last year, she did mention that she is not a fan favorite of having interest rate hikes because she understands how the Japanese economy works. Now, they're anticipating that if she does come into power, sorry about that. Now, continuing on. When she has come into power, we do anticipate that Bank of Japan, which is due to meet later on this week, if we can go back to our economic calendar, we do anticipate Bank of Japan to hold their meeting sometime this week, whereby there are talks of, yes, they are going to delay the increase in rates hikes, but once again, they are going to delay the increase in rate cuts, but they're not going to put it off completely. Now, as a result of this information, we did see the markets react. Ever since she was appointed into power, we have seen a bit of action, starting off with the Nikkei. So this is the Japan 225 index, whereby we did see it gap to the upper side ever since Friday's closing price to where it is currently at the moment, trading almost 4.2% above the current opening price. Now, looking at US dollar against JPY, once again, we did see the markets gap up. Now, why does this happen? Whereby, remember, Forex is 24/5. It operates 24 hours a day, 5 days a week, meaning towards the end of the week, the markets usually close, but activity usually continues to go on. Now, when the markets opened on Monday, we did see a bit of sell-offs in Japanese offered bonds, whereby investors wanted to be cautious about what is happening. And as a result, we saw massive offloading on bonds in Japan. As a result of that, the Japanese yen became weaker against the dollar, whereby it did gap almost 1.12%. Now, this is a very important aspect of trading, whereby prices do gap up, but not every gap has to be filled. Remember, Forex operates on supply and demand. It moves by fear and greed. If there's a lot of fear in the markets, people usually sell massively. Now, the times whereby you get a gap and then the markets come to fill in those gaps is when the news doesn't have much of an impact and it's only short-lived. But up until she is appointed, the new prime minister is appointed into power, investors would want to take a safer route into how they approach the markets. If I can pull up a document here of how they have sold government bonds. So just a moment. Okay, so this is from Reuters. Okay. Now, the Japanese yen and the euro did slide against the dollar on fiscal concerns. Okay. Now, on 6th, which is today, this is a most recent document. Now, her name is Takaichi. Her name is Takaichi, the lady who's just been appointed as the new prime minister for Japan, set to become Japan's first female prime minister. Now, once again, Takaichi's policy may delay Bank of Japan's rate hike plans. Now, the euro, once again, looking at this information, the yen did decline after Japan's ruling party picked conservative. Keyword here is conservative Sanae Takaichi, an advocate of late Premier Shinzo Abe's Abenomics strategy to boost the economy with aggressive spending and easy monetary policy. So once again, her mentor is someone who looks at easy monetary policy. When you look at Japan, they are net exporters, meaning they do depend heavily on exporting markets. Now, when Bank of Japan increases rates, it means that, yes, they're advocating for more money to come into the country, okay? But if they are going to hold rates where they are currently at the moment, where they are going to be lower, it means that investors would want to look at assets that are going to yield much more in return. And on this particular case, we have seen the 10-year treasuries on the United States of America. If I can go to a daily perspective, zoom it out, ever since the year did begin, which is around this region over here. So this was the start of the year. Ever since the year did begin to where we are currently trading at the moment, we have seen the 10-year treasuries gain almost 3.37%, which is quite good when you look at it in the grand scheme of things. And investors are now offloading positions whereby they would want to park their money where it's going to yield much more in return. So to answer the question from Jessless Boy, why isn't the gap being filled currently at the moment? We still have uncertainties in the Japanese region whereby we would want to listen to her tone. When she comes into power, what does she have to say about the economic outlook. Once again, we have seen from Momentum, she is a fan favorite of monetary easing, whereby they do depend on low interest rates. But as a result of low interest rates, money usually moves out of the economy as a result of weakening in the Japanese yen. That's why we did see, ever since the week did begin, she was elected on Saturday or Sunday, I do believe so, but she will be voted and sworn in officially on the 15th of this month, whereby as a result of that information, we have seen the Japanese yen, the US dollar against the Japanese yen gain almost 2.13% in the last 34 hours of trading. Beautiful question. If you have any more questions, kindly put it in the chat box. I will be glad to answer you. Now, looking at gold, the precious metal, whereby ever since the markets did open yesterday, today is Tuesday, meaning this weekly candle is still very early in its stages, whereby we did see gold move to the upper side, got to the upper side slightly, currently forming all-time highs yesterday around $3,971 an ounce. The next potential region that we could be looking at gold, if everything that is currently happening, will be $4,000 an ounce, which, looking at it from today's high that was formed during Asian session, it is less than 200 pips away, less than 0.5%, which is quite achievable on gold. Gold usually moves quite significant, and currently at the moment we could see gold tap into a high that we have never looked at before, which is $4,000 an ounce. Once again, if everything that is happening in the world persists, with what we are seeing in Europe, with what we are seeing in Russia, with what we are seeing in Asia also, if it does continue to persist, we will see the safe haven attracting more money, capital inflows, and we might anticipate prices to continue moving further to the upper side. Looking at silver, on the other hand, we do have some bears coming into the market. Currently at the moment, it is London open, whereby we have seen a massive candlestick to the downside. But if we do close above $48.781 an ounce on the silver metal, I would want to look at more long opportunities on the markets. Looking at it from this low to this high, if I can pull a Fibonacci, I would want to wait for prices to come in between the golden retracement region, which is around the 50% and the 61.8 for a further continuation to the upper side. This all depends on how price action is going to play out around this region. Looking at Euro USD, whereby we have seen economic uncertainties in the Eurozone, especially France, as we have mentioned, whereby Sebastian has just resigned less than 24 hours after forming his cabinet, and as a result of that information, we did see the euro lose against the dollar almost 75 pips to the downside, recovered slightly, but currently we are trading well below the opening price of Monday, which was yesterday. If we do break below these regions, I would want to see prices continuing further to the downside. This is going to be dependent on what President Lagarde has to say later on in the day, whereby we do anticipate the ECB to have its second meeting of the week. She did speak yesterday, she is going to speak today, and she will speak tomorrow also. We want to look at the tone. Where does she anticipate prices to go to in the near future? Switching gears to the S&P 500, we did form all-time highs, a recent region of resistance around 6,756 region. If you do break above this region, I would want to look at more net long opportunities. Now, at the moment, the markets are anticipating the data. We were supposed to receive NFP numbers last week, but as a result of the shutdown, we haven't received the non-farm payrolls. There's a high likelihood we are not going to receive inflationary numbers, but we are going to receive Fed minutes later on in the day, whereby if I look at the economic calendar, later on today, we are going to anticipate the full minutes of the most recent speech that did occur. It's going to be tomorrow, sorry. Yeah, it's going to be tomorrow at exactly 2100 hours Nairobi time. We are going to anticipate the FOMC minutes report, whereby we will want to look at this detailed report of what happened in the previous meeting that Jerome Powell did have. And as a result of that, one thing I would want to look into this document is where he did comment that stocks could be highly valued. That was a very, very powerful statement coming from the head of the Central Bank of the United States, the Fed system, essentially, because if you look at the S&P 500 on the daily time frame, we are very much extended to the upper side. Could we start seeing some profit taking before the year does end? Once again, for us traders, we only react to prices. We don't push prices. If there are no more questions currently at the moment, let me look at the comment section. Wisdom, thank you for the follow. Do you have any questions from East Africa? Oh. Okay, there are no more questions from East Africa. That's going to be it for me. Once again, for you as a trader, we do have a lot of products on our platforms. One of the best tools that you can ever have as a trader is the calculators that we do offer. If you can go over to your HFM website, let me pull this one here. If you go over to your HF website, under the tools and education, we do have the trading calculators, okay? Shout out to Dimza FX East Africa. Shout out also to Nwisa from East Africa. The risk percentage calculator is going to be a very important tool for you, whereby if you do click on this tool, it's going to pull up a new tab whereby you are going to have an opportunity to calculate risk management. Always specify the account currency. What type are you looking at? Are you looking at cents, ETFs? Let's say you want to look at Forex, an asset. All of the assets that we do offer are here currently at the moment. Let's say you want to practice risk management on Euro USD. You can pick Euro USD. You specify your opening price, your stop loss, your account balance, and what percentage risk are you willing to put on that table. Then you do hit calculate. It's going to give you a stop loss in pips. How many pips is it going to be from your entry price to your stop loss? And then it's going to give you the lot size. This is very important because this is what you're going now to input on your MetaTrader here. Once again, thank you. Thank you so much. I shall see you in the next segment. Hello, Marvel. Beautiful. Stay safe. Take care of yourselves, huh?